Hey guys, Manila Mimikyu here. Today's topic will be standing up. Lately, I've been listening a lot to the Hamilton soundtrack, which, if you haven't, you should definitely check it out. Absolutely love it. One line that keeps standing out to me is, if you stand for nothing better, then what do you fall for? In the 10 times we live in where everything seems to be controversial, taking a stance on anything feels kind of taboo. We don't really talk about politics for some people and just kind of avoid anything that might start a fight. At least I know I do. I really conflict kind of scares me, but um, dodging issues on these is common and like it's okay to do. If you don't want to talk about something, you obviously have no need to. Don't do anything that makes you uncomfortable. Uh, but then I'm sure you also have people on your Facebook and Twitter feeds and any kind of social media where you see them share everything political and they just don't seem to like shut up about it, and that's okay too. Make sure like you let them have their voice and feel free to speak up if you want to, but also don't judge anybody or harass them or anything about being quiet either. Uh, Personally, I refuse to remain silent at this point. That quote kind of like inspires me not to. Without a cause, I personally like feel lost inside. I need something to keep me driving and keep me going. Um, I'm not like searching for anything. Like I'm not trying to find something to complain about or try and have changed. Although there's plenty to do, since just my mere existence is controversial in this day and age. Uh, Without having, because I've always had to worry about fighting for a movement, at least for myself. It feels weird if I don't. Um, it's something that I'm gonna have to battle for all of my life, probably. Or at least I expect to have to go all of my life fighting for trans rights and trans issues. Um, Hopefully I don't. Hopefully at some point in my life I can see that battle won and the world to become more accepting and earn the rights that we truly deserve because they're human rights, not just privileges. I'm not asking for special treatment. I'm asking to be treated like a human. Um, it's been a battle of my life though. Growing up, even from like my own family, I was hearing it's just a phase or it's just the situation I'm in, and I'll grow out of it. Uh, Even one of the big things I heard was this isn't an easy life to choose, so why are you doing it? And it's not a choice really. The only choice I'm making is to go for happiness. I used to try and hide myself and duck away from like expressing who I am because I didn't want to start a fight. It scared the shit out of me. I would have arguments with family and sometimes just people around me about who I was and what I was doing. And at some point, I stopped caring and I started fighting more for what made me happy and trying to become a stronger, happier person. If as mental health awareness is becoming more obvious, you can see depression and anxiety truly breaking people down, and it was tearing me apart. I was in a really deep rut, and once I finally like came to terms with myself and said, "Hey, you have to actually fight for your happiness before you can do anything for anybody else." I It got better for me. Throughout high school, I started feeling more comfortable and confident in my own body and discovering that I actually could be happy and I deserved happiness. Um, the scary part about this world now is trans people never have been accepted before. It feels like a relatively new topic, but it's just now recently getting talked about, especially in wake of the House Bill 2 in North Carolina this past year, and then kind of reigniting with the presidential election. If you don't know, the House Bill 2 passed in North Carolina stated that people must use in public restrooms must use the bathroom that aligns with what their sex at birth, so like what their birth certificate said they were born as. And it received a lot of backlash. Many businesses were pulling companies out or stop the idea of expanding into North Carolina. Um, I There are several companies that have done it, and even like some uh, sports championships were threatening to not host championships there. Um, and in wake of the recent election, I especially with Mike Pence having been the vice president talking about supporting of gay conversion camps and that, I was terrified. A lot of people were. And hate crimes have spiked. There have been a lot of backlash, whether they support it or not, whether Pence or Trump support it, or any major political candidate, major political role supports it. They've happened, and it's terrifying to be of any kind of minority or marginalized group. And I skipped classes the first couple of days. I didn't go to my class Wednesday or Friday, and because I was depressed. I barely left my bed. I didn't want to leave my room. I didn't want to leave the house. I didn't want to be a victim. I didn't want to go out and be myself and then maybe not come home. I was terrified that I'd end up in the hospital or dead or just in a ditch somewhere where nobody finds me. It was horrifying. I didn't want to become a statistic. I wanted to actually be someone here. Like, I started finally having plans for my future and aspirations and dreams, and I didn't want to see those die just because of hate crimes. And it's astounding to me at this day and age that we still have hate crimes, like, so, especially so rampant now at this point. With seeing, even personally, me in the media, I'm seeing a lot about like the KKK and neo-Nazi groups coming back and making a rise into the public eye again. I mean, you can't convince people to stop hating. I wish we could. I wish there was a way to prevent hate in general, but some people just are born with hate in their hearts, or they're taught hate in their hearts, and they can't let go of that. But what terrifies me is that now people are acting on that, and they're attacking minorities. There's people talking about hang the N-words, and there's swastikas being graffitied on school campuses. And we're seeing crimes against any minority. I've heard reports of people telling anybody that looks like they might be Middle Eastern or Muslim, talking about you're going to go back to your country, or death threats even. And that's not a good place to be for anybody. I can't believe that people feel like that's okay to do. And my sympathy goes out to those people that are being harassed like that and threatened, and even more so to the people that are actually suffering abuse from it and being physically hurt. And the mental wounds are almost worse in a way, because you can't see those. If somebody gets knocked out and dumped in a ditch, you see their wounds, you see how physically hurt they are, but you can't see the lasting mental effects that has. They're going to be a lot less trusting. They're not going to want to go out as much. And that's nothing. Nobody should have to go through that as a human being. And that's where I was at. I didn't want to have that happen to me. I didn't want to face the harassment or the judgment or the attacks, whether physical or verbal or mental. And I was like that for a couple of days. Sometime over the weekend, though, partially listening to Hamilton so much, I was inspired to stop hiding, stop trying to run away, and not face reality, because that is reality for some people now. I have decided now to go out more and be more proud in the face of danger, and I'm worried. I'm taking self-defense measures, but I'm not backing away. I recently, over the summer, I bought a trans pride flag at Pride STL, and I'm going to start carrying that around with me and having that with me as like a sign, like a way for people to see that I am trans. And hopefully I'll get some positive questions, people wanting to actually educate themselves. And I realize I'm making myself almost more of a target in some ways, but we can't hide. If we hide, then we lose. That's like retreating in the face of a battle, and we can't do that. We need to keep fighting more. This is the time when we need to push for equality and push for human rights, whether it's as a Mexican being called a rapist from the comments previously in the election, or a Muslim person being called a terrorist. It's not okay. We need to have people seen as humans, which is what we all are at the end of the day. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter what you sexually identify as, what kind of sex you have an interest in, if any, what the color of your skin, what your religious beliefs are or lack thereof. we're all human beings, and we need to learn more to love each other and show compassion and respect and start granting the rights that we all deserve as people. Um, Personally, for me, that battle is scary because I've seen hate around. There were actually racial slurs written at my high school when I was attending there, and while I'm not of the race that was attacked, it shows the intolerance in people's hearts to adapt to new ideas and new surroundings. And when I had first come out at my school and started wearing more feminine clothes, I received a lot of "hey faggot" or "where's the little pussy in the skirt" and just things like that. And uh, it just it kind of shook me a little bit. But then also the support I received from some people was even more astounding, and that boosted me up to ignore everybody that was trying to attack me and bring me down. Um, I personally never faced physical damage, but there was threats of it. Apparently, I had heard some people that had told me others were talking about it, and that was scary. But it wasn't enough to back me down and make me quit, and it won't be now either. So I'm going to more boldly make a statement, and I'm going to carry my transfer leg around with me. But I'm also, for the potential of threats, I'm going to arm myself better too. I recently purchased mace to protect myself in the case of a close up attack. Um, and I'm going to be looking into self defense classes too. And if you guys feel like you're at all threatened, or even if you just want to be able to help out in case you see it happening to somebody else as a bystander, I urge you to take self defense classes and to buy pepper spray or mace or something to be able to defend yourself and ward off any threats you feel there might be. But the big point is, I'm fighting, but I'm not expecting to die. I'm aware there might be more threats or more like danger to my physical and mental health and safety, but I'm not. I'm making sure that I make an impact and promote positive change in this world, because that's all I've ever wanted to do, was to help see the world become a better place and to promote that positive change to acceptance and love, and try and pull away from some of the hate that we see in the world, and just help people learn to love more and accept and be more proud of who they are, whether they're accepted or not. Because I've never been accepted by some of the closest people to me, and that's one of the hardest things ever to deal with. But I eventually learned to love myself and grow to worry more about how I felt about myself rather than what others thought about me. Because if I worried about what others thought about me more than what I thought about myself at this point, I don't think I'd be alive anymore. And I don't want to see anybody else suffer the way that I had, especially if they're not able to pull through and handle that. Because everybody handles the stress of that differently, and some people can't take it. Um, and so if you're out there and you feel marginalized, if you're ashamed of who you are, worried that you might not be accepted, just know that I will accept you and I will love you for who you are, as long as you're not posing a threat to others. If you're harming others, that's unacceptable. But as long as you're trying to be a good person and you just are worried about who you are, don't worry about it as much. It's a scary world we live in, but we're making steps for the better. We are going to become a better world, and we need people to stand up for themselves and for their rights to keep that progress moving. If we step down now and hide in the face of these attacks, then that's when we step back. It's not the fact that we have these hate crimes rising that's pushing us back. It's if people hide from them. And so I refuse to hide, because I want to see us progress to the future. And as long as we're still standing up and fighting for our rights, then we still make progress.